Alberta Premier Danielle Smith recently traveled to Mexico City to meet with officials and industry representatives to work to improve the relationship with Mexico. The Premier of Alberta joins me now. Welcome, Premier.
My pleasure.
So, after the trip to Mexico, you said that this is the beginning of a new potential reset on a relationship with Mexico. What makes you say that?
I can tell you there's I think a lot of enthusiasm in Mexico to explore the trade ties with Canada. We've both come to the same conclusion at the same time, that we've had this two trade agreements, the Canada-US-Mexico Free Trade Agreement, as well as the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And yet the trade ties between our two nations is much, much less than with our other big trading partner, the United States. And with them suffering from some of the same disruption of that relationship as we are, it really does create a new opportunity for us to reset and see if there's more chances for other businesses to be able to invest in trade.
In terms of those chances, then, how much of an impact do you think an improved relationship with Mexico? I mean, there is some rebuilding of this relationship that needs to happen, considering some of the comments that have been made by some leaders about whether or not we have a three-way or a two-way agreement with Mexico and the U.S. So an improved relationship and working towards that, how much of an impact can that have in terms of dealing with Trump's trade war?
Well, I can tell you right now that this relationship Canada or Alberta has with the United States is $188 billion with the cross-border trade. With Mexico, it's $3 billion. So that gives you some sense of how much room there is to grow. CPKC, with their acquisition of Kansas City, now has the ability to take bonded goods all the way into Mexico and back, bypassing America and the tariff policies there. So anything you can ship by rail, whether it's machinery, equipment, electronics, food, fiber, that opens up, I think, a new opportunity there. There are also some really large business interests, large-scale business interests that have already started investing in Canada. For instance, there's a couple of companies that have bought bakeries, another company that is invested in oats. So having Mexican investment here. And then I had a really great relationship, a great conversation with Pemex, and Pemex is now reconsidering whether they should be developing their own gas resources, what that would look like. TC Energy has been building pipelines in Mexico. ATCO Electric has been building power stations in Mexico. So we have a really good relationship with a lot of big businesses who found a way to do business in Mexico that might be able to chart a pathway for others. And that's what we hope we can do. We hope we can be that bridge. We've had an office in Mexico as a province for 20 years. We've got an incredible group of people down there willing to help make those trade ties. But I think there's now been a greater enthusiasm and interest in doing so than ever before.
I think some Canadians might be surprised at the idea of that bypassing the U.S. in any way is even possible with Mexico. And we heard from Premier Doug Ford, your Premier colleague in Ontario, that the real deal that matters, however, is CUSMA. And I guess I wanted to get your sense of where talks on, I mean, we're looking at a review, an imminent review for that deal. What is your sense of where talks are right now between Ottawa and Washington? What are you hearing?
Well, it doesn't, I think it started off well, but I think it's taken a bit of a turn for the worse. I think we were all hoping to see some kind of arrangement as of August 1st. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But my understanding is that Mexico and Canada are working together to make sure that they're not working against each other's interests. I think what we've seen in trade negotiations in the past is that Mexico has either gone in the lead or Canada's gone in the lead. I think that there's some reason for us to make sure that the partnership works for everyone. But there is a lot of opportunity for Canada to be able to do trade directly with Mexico. It may not look that way from the East Coast, but from the West Coast, especially with LNG export. Mexico gets 60% of their LNG from the United States, and they feel a little bit at risk of being so reliant on a single trading partner, which is why they're looking at ways to develop their own. But now that we're doing export from LNG Canada, it can also go on water and be imported into a couple of the ports that are on the west side of Mexico as well. So I think that we just have to open our minds about how to get products to Mexico and realize that our West Coast shipment, as well as the CN and CP lines, offer new opportunities that we may not have been experiencing before. So I think that there's some way for us to be able to have all those conversations at once. Clearly, Canada trades the most with the U.S., Mexico trades the most with the U.S., but now it's time for us to start talking about ways that we can trade more between Canada and Mexico. And that's part of the reason I was down there.
I mentioned Premier Doug Ford in terms of his comments on CUSMA, but he also spoke today about advice he had for Pierre Poilievre in the by-election in Battle River Crowfoot. And if he were to win that by-election, Doug Ford was asked what advice he would give Pierre Poilievre, and he said to work with the Prime Minister if Monsieur Poilievre comes back to Ottawa and the House of Commons. If he does win the by-election, what would your advice be to Monsieur Poilievre?
Similar. Work with the Prime Minister. Yeah, work with the Prime Minister.
How does an opposition leader do that?
Well, he's doing it with his Canadian Sovereignty Act, which puts in law the 9 bad laws that we want to see repealed. And I think that's the kind of initiative I'd like to see. What we've already seen that the opposition leader has worked with the government. They passed Bill C5, which is the major projects bill, with the help of the Conservatives. And so my understanding of the Conservative leader is that he will work with Prime Minister Carney anytime he wants to reduce taxes and reduce regulatory burden. And so let's put that to the test. Let's see if we can get rid of some of those bad laws in the fall so that we truly can be that economic superpower that the Prime Minister talks about. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing Pierre Poilievre win today and then be able to be that strong voice in the legislature.
Now, in terms of a strong voice, obviously from an Alberta perspective, I'm sure especially the people in that riding are wondering how he will represent them in particular in the House of Commons. How should he ensure that he is their voice as well as the voice of the Conservative Party and as well as being the leader of the opposition if he does come back to the House of Commons?
It is challenging because it's a very diverse riding and a very big riding, but I've been watching him campaign over the last few months. He's been at virtually every rodeo and parade and meeting with mayors and meeting with community leaders and businesses in his riding. And I think he's got a very solid understanding of some of the concerns and aspirations that Alberta has. So I think that the residents of that riding are looking forward to hearing a strong Alberta perspective once he takes a seat in the Parliament.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Premier Smith, for your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure.